Well, let me give a shout out to the inspiration for this particular video. And this comes from a friend of mine named Sonia. Sonia's dilemma is not unique. She works in the tech space, but she is deluged with all sorts of different tasks to do. And, I suspect she's pulled several different directions with lots of people asking her, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And it's not unusual for a person to have some problems figuring out what should I prioritize. So what I'm going to give you today is a system for thinking about how to prioritize your workflow. So this is a 4-quadrant, if you will, design. Let's talk about the first quadrant. This is the urgent critical quadrant. This means the house is going to burn down unless you do this today. It has to be done. There is simply nothing that can get in your way because it's urgent and it's critical. And this part is your priority number 1 for the day, because without getting this done, heck, the house burns down. You have a second category. It's urgent, but it's not critical. And these are things that are nice to get done. These are things that I want you to think about. Can you divert those to other people to do? Can you disperse that workflow? Let's make the argument of our time having a particular value. And, I'm an advocate of, do what you do best. And if at all possible, have other people do tasks that aren't in your wheelhouse. And this really applies to that urgent, non-critical. It's not absolute that you get these done. It's nice if you do. And these are tasks I want you to think about relegating to other people. They can be things like making sure that, copies are adequate for a meeting, or, other assortments of things that just, it's not absolutely critical. The world isn't going to come to an end. Here's the difficulty. Things with urgency call out in the same voice, whether they're critical or non-critical. They all demand time. And that's the dilemma of the ADD brain. Imagine yourself going out to the alley to dump some trash, and you see this one big old weed sticking up in the garden. It's not critical that it come out at all, but it calls out, my gosh, that weed has to go right the heck now. They call out with the same voice, but they're different. That weed can stay in the garden until you get around to it. It's not critical, but it's going to call out with the same voice. Meanwhile, you go over and pluck the weed, and you've gone down the rabbit hole, and pretty much you're weeding the whole garden, and the garden sits in the middle of the yard undumped. The really critical part was, hey, you make space in your garbage can to throw away more garbage. So you kind of get my idea with things that are non-critical. Now we move to another quadrant. In that quadrant are things that are non-urgent, but they're critical. It is not urgent at any one moment that we give quality time to our significant others. It is, however, critical that we do so. And this is something to be really mindful of, that, there's no pressure in any one moment to say to your significant other, hey, let's go spend some time together. Let's just have some you and me time. And if you don't do that, it's like not giving a plant water. That relationship is going to die just like that plant. It is critical you do those. It is not urgent in any one moment for me to pay my mortgage bill, but it is critical I do that. I kind of like having a roof over my head. I bet you do too. And whether it's rent or a mortgage, it is definitely not urgent at any one moment, but it's critical you do that. And these are the kind of tasks that are best relegated to scheduled times to do them. You know, the aspect of sort of predictably random time in a relationship, secret's out. I would mark on the calendar, just close my eyes and put some dots on times where I would make a point of, say, bringing my wife home flowers or doing something special, some occasion. And it would seem very random to her. But it was critical I did it, so I made time for doing that. There are other things that happen regularly. They're not critical that you do it at any one moment, but they are critical that you do it on a regular basis. These are things best scheduled for blocks of time. Now let's come to that category that is non-urgent, non-critical. These are the throwaways. And oftentimes things that go in that non-urgent, non-critical category, they're things like time on social media. There is nothing urgent or critical about you being on social media, but yet it's a rabbit hole we frequently go down. There are just other tasks within the work environment that just don't matter much. Let them go. The world's not going to come to an end. Divert them to someone else that whose time may be less per hour, and the world isn't going to come to an end, and you don't have to do them at any one time. Yeah, maybe there's a few things that are nice that you do. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to put in the comments what tasks you find in your life are non-urgent but critical, and whether you feel like they should go on a scheduled time, a randomized but predictable schedule. You know, secret for, you know, enhancing relationships, you gotta nurture them. And sometimes we need reminders. You know, I suspect that's more of a male issue. Maybe not, just my male perspective. And I want you to give me a thumbs up and pass this along to other people. Now, let's come back to something that is an umbrella over all of this, and that is the topic of significance. You may have things that are urgent and critical, but they just aren't very significant. And that lets you add another layer of prioritization to these tasks. Brings me back to not taking on more than is reasonable. I am not a big list guy, not at all. And the reality is I like to have my clients ask themselves the question, what are the 3 things that if I accomplish today, I'll feel like today was successful? And if you get done with those 3, then hey, the door's open to do more. Too often with lists, our lists get too long, they get untenable, you never finish them. Time to fess up here. How many of you out there have put something on your list of things to do that you've already done just so you can mark it off? Yeah, we tend to play that mind game, and it lets us feel better about ourselves. You know, oftentimes we confuse busyness with productivity, and prioritizing what to work on really moves you into that spot of being productive and not just busy. So if this video has been useful for you, I would really appreciate you giving it a thumbs up. And I really want you to leave comments. Another idea for comments is, what was your best takeaway for this particular video? And who do you know that is best to share this with? Who is having similar struggles? And go that extra mile. Copy the URL for this. Say to somebody, hey, you know, I found this useful, you might too, and share it. Until next time, this is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD. Take care, and we'll talk again.